What's up, guys? It's great to see you all. I've decided to make a random video just as an excuse to use my new intro song that I made. So I'm gonna talk to you today about my love for pro wrestling, and that's what a lot of people know me for. Which is kind of crazy because these days I don't watch it as much, but I am finding myself being more interested in doing interviews with wrestlers and interacting with wrestlers more often. So there's that. Stay tuned because there hopefully will be something that comes out of that. Anyways, I'm going to talk about my history of pro wrestling and why it's something that's very special and important to me. It's much more than just watching the action and the characters in the ring. For me, it was something I can look forward to during my childhood. It was my favorite pastime growing up. The first thing that I would do at night before I go to bed was watch wrestling, and that was one of the many things I looked forward to once I got home from school, was to watch wrestling. And I made several of my childhood friends because we all loved wrestling, particularly WWE. And speaking of WWE, that's kind of how it all started for me. I really remember it vividly. I remember watching a match on SmackDown, and it had The Undertaker in it. And he did his signature where he rolled his eyes in the back of his head. And I thought that was one of the scariest yet coolest things I ever saw. I was like, who is this guy? And you know, back then I didn't understand kayfabe or the ins and outs of the wrestling business. So I really thought that this was real. I really thought that Undertaker was like the undead. And I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And ever since then, I've been hooked on it. Still very hooked on it to this day, to a varying degree. So while watching WWE, I was really into everybody. I mean, I favored a lot of people more than others, but I think I really enjoyed the entire product because I was just in awe of like the athleticism and the storytelling and the characters, and I was really invested to the point where I really thought these people really lived their lives this way as their characters, of course. And I think after a while, I would say while I was in high school, I began to get to know the ins and outs of wrestling by watching documentaries. And the first documentary I believed I watched, if I recall correctly, I think it was The Four Horsemen. You know, with Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, what's the other guy's name? Oh my God, I forgot his name. Oh, and J.J. Dillon. Mine kind of blanked, but you get the point. I watched a documentary about them, and then I began to learn the backstage politics that comes to wrestling. And that kind of floored me, and it kind of killed kayfabe for me in the sense that there's a lot of backstage politics and work that goes into making a match. You're not just going out there and beating the hell out of each other for no apparent reason. There's a lot of matchmaking, if you will, and I guess that's what turned me on to even more. Also, this is around the time I started getting into other promotions besides WWE. That includes Impact Wrestling. I remember when it was still TNA Wrestling on Spike TV, so that was quite a while ago. New Japan Pro Wrestling, which I'm very heavily invested into now. Japanese wrestling in general. Lucha Libre, particularly 𝔩𝔬𝔢𝔢𝔰𝔱𝔩𝔦𝔫𝔫 and CMLL, and a wide array of American independent wrestling promotions, which is incredible now because it's been like this whole revolution of supporting indie wrestling over the past few years. And just being able to witness that and being a part of that is incredible. And I watched tons of matches on YouTube from various independent promotions, not only in America, but around the world. So I like to consider myself an encyclopedia of pro wrestling, being that I have studied the history of it to a great extent. But I don't want to go into too much detail in the video because you probably think I am a smark. That's a word, that's wrestling jargon terminology. Basically, you think you know it all about the business, which You obviously don't. So yeah, so don't be surprised if I start posting wrestling related content to my channel, because it is coming. And to prove my point, I even have some wrestling merch that I would like to present to you all. Let's see here. So this is one of my other childhood favorites growing up, Eddie Guerrero, who sadly passed away at the prime of his career. He is a legend in the business and very influential to many male and female wrestlers today. So may he continue to rest in peace. I am also a women's wrestler that I'm very big on right now, the Queen of Spades, 𝔩𝔯𝔢𝔢𝔰🔱🐰. I have 5 of her shirts, but here are 2 that I currently have right now. I actually got into 𝔩𝔯𝔢𝔢 while she was still an MMA fighter. She was a pioneer in women's MMA, and I really enjoyed her work on The Ultimate Fighter. I personally thought that she was one of the more well-rounded fighters in the competition. And then just seeing her just smoothly transition into pro wrestling, using her catch wrestling and judo, I think Muay Thai as well, using her techniques just to smoothly transition to pro wrestling, wrestling on the indies, before even going to NXT, where she flat out dominated for the better part of her entire time in NXT. I'm really a big fan of hers. I don't really understand why people don't like her, but I personally enjoy her work. And another one that I have is Kazuchika Okada. He's one of the top Japanese wrestlers for New Japan. He's considered one of the best wrestlers in the world, period. He also has the distinction of holding the highest rated match of all time via the Wrestling Newsletter Observer. Wrestler Observer Newsletter, sorry, said it the wrong way. And he and Kenny Omega had 2 very classic matches that were ranked in, I think it was 7.5 stars. So that was pretty incredible. And if you haven't watched that match, I highly recommend it. Wrestling or non-wrestling fans, is really a classic. And there are a lot of other favorites that I have that I don't have t-shirts for. My all-time favorite personally is Hayabusa. He's also a Japanese wrestler. He passed away a couple years ago. He wrestled predominantly for a promotion called FMW, Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, where he did death matches. And you don't die in death matches, don't worry. But he was a very innovative high flyer. A lot of the high flying offense they see from cruiserweights and noted high flyers today, Hayabusa probably more than likely innovated those moves. And I just thought he was so cool. He would wear a mask and he looked like a superhero. But obviously, you know, he got injured a lot while doing those moves, so he had to retire early. And he spent the majority of his career in FMW, and the majority of his matches took place in that promotion. And he was arguably the face of the company during that period. And I think what I love about wrestling, not only for like the athleticism, I also love it for the art piece. And I think a lot of people miss out on that. There is a art, creative component that comes to professional wrestling. And that's what makes it more unique than any other sport. You always hear about, oh, it's fake, or is this, is that, da 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 da. The fakeness, I believe, comes to the fact that it's scripted, and a lot of the time, most of the matches are predetermined by script or storyline. But these people, they really do put their bodies on the line when they're in the ring, and I think a lot of people forget that. And I think another thing I love about it is there are characters that you resonate with, like 𝔩𝔯𝔢𝔢𝔰🔱🐰. Like, I think that she's just a total badass. But when you get to know like certain aspects of things that she likes, like video games and anime and, you know, classic cars, like all 3 things that I like, I'm pretty sure there's other cool things that she enjoys. And it's like, wow, like you just find something that resonates with them. And I think that's kind of where that passion from the fans come from. They resonate with the wrestlers to the point where they feel like they know them, but obviously you don't. You don't know what they're like behind closed doors. Even if you see certain things on social media, you still don't really know them personally. But I think what I enjoy about pro wrestling, it's kind of like a stress reliever. You just sit back and you enjoy the action and entertainment. And from a psychology standpoint, I think for me, because I'm very enthusiastic about the human anatomy, you get to see how wrestlers get to work and tweak the human anatomy during matches. That's a whole nother video, but I enjoy that as well. So as I said earlier, do not be surprised when you see wrestling related content on my channel. I may even start reviewing certain shows, old and new. And yeah, I just really look forward to posting it because I love wrestling a lot and I really enjoy it. And I've always wanted to do like reviews and just to get my point of view on certain things wrestling related, and I'm very excited to show it to you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this little video. I have a lot more content coming, including a fashion vlog. I did not forget about that. I have to show you my fashion. And of course, I'm continuing my interview series, and I'm hoping to expand on that even further with that, bringing in more people. So thank you all for viewing this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye. Bye bye bye.